So that leads us to the first of 13 tracks that we've never heard before. And the first one up to bat is Tell Me Why. This is from takes 4 and 5. And for the first time, you can hear George's under harmony. As a matter of fact, before they get going properly, John is teaching it to him. Remember, I've said many times, John was famous for finding harmonies beneath the melody. Often that gave Paul the ability to take a very high melody with John, even though John wrote the song, supplying the harmony to his melody. A lot of people thinking that was Paul's song when it was actually John's. I mean, he's going over it with George. No, I want you to sing this part. The second one that we've not heard is If I Fell from take 11. It sounds like John is striking his guitar with a silver spoon, actually, but he keeps the rhythm by going that. Of course, I'm imagining what is happening here. I've done similar things in the studio, is he's palm striking it way up by the bridge to get a more high ring sound to this, and he plays it throughout the entire track. I love it. But then, you know, I A/B tested all of these, especially since I don't recall hearing that. And I was right, you know, it was a nice, beautiful, safe strum. But this is an excellent example of the Beatles testing the boundaries. They're always looking for that little extra pizzazz. And nowadays, everybody does that. But they learned it from the Beatles. This is at a time when nobody would have thought of doing that. Want to do an East Indian kind of thing? Well, I'll go buy a sitar, check it out for a while. You know, I kind of like it. Maybe I'll take lessons from the world's best, you know, type of thing. Invading sound effect cupboards, right? Going to a sound library and sampling. Probably rock and roll's first true samplers of rock, in that they did it all the time and they knew how to do it perfectly. So the third track up that we've never heard is Take One of Matchbox. And I got to tell you, I almost prefer this. It's cleaner. Ringo's vocals are better. I even like the lilt of his vocals better here. The weakness, however, is the glaring, non-existent guitar solo, even though the one we are used to isn't all that great to begin with. Never one of my favorite Beatles songs. So to tell you the truth, comparing it to the other, yeah, I think Ringo does a better job. I like the dry performance, always do. But it's not one of my favorite songs. It wouldn't have been a thing that would have made me want to go out and buy the album. But if you love this song, you're going to want to hear it stripped down. And all of these are worth a first listen. And if you're not going to buy this thing, find it on streaming. I got it through Apple Music. You can get it on Spotify, I'm sure. The fourth track we never heard is Every Little Thing. Speaking of timpanis, but you know, the lack thereof, as a matter of fact. As a musician, I like to see how they got it, you know, an approach here that changes 3 takes later. I love that kind of thing. I actually like this song, love this song. Very important symphonic movements forward with that song and their approach when they finally got it together. Next up, I Need You, the fifth new track. And this is I Need You from take 1, a very clean track. But what is it that's missing off of this thing? All right, I mean, this is the perfect demo for sure, but what's missing? The Beatles pushing the envelope again. George would later add his volume pedal to this, and that's where you get that mwah, mwah. The sixth new track, I've Just Seen a Face. This is take 3. Now, the Beatles get real close to the level for the version on Help on this one. This is well carried out, but it doesn't get to anything beyond. Matter of fact, Paul's inflections are slightly off on this. I can see why they wanted to redo it. Okay, but it has an excitement. But I have seen and heard so many freaking versions of this live and everything over the years. It wouldn't have been anything I would have been super. It's one of my favorite Paul songs. This is one of the best songs off of Help, for sure. You know, way up there. But a clean take, Not a lot of mistakes in this. Next comes from take one, In My Life, yeah. Okay, yeah, I wrote down, it's a nice enough listen, just to clearly hear the progression that happens where you've got that harpsichord-like solo. Now, Christian hinted at this. It sounds like a harpsichord. It's not. It's a piano solo. What George did is he slowed the tape down, which changed the key and the speed so that he could properly play that very intricate piano piece, right, properly. And then they just sped everything up again, and he had a harpsichord sound. Again, timpanis, harpsichord, volume pedal. Do you see what I'm talking about, folks? The Beatles at the outset. This is from George Martin telling them consistently, think symphonically. Next up, Nowhere Man. First version, take two. Now this track has a whole different flavor than the original, with Ringo at least hitting his snare. Yeah, he does this weird thing. Anyway, he hits it between the third and the fourth beat. And it's really interesting to hear, but when they re-recorded it, he stayed away from that approach. They weren't happy with this mix at all, and went on to, further refine the song. Baby, You're a Rich Man. Holy shades of Hey Bulldog. At the end of this cut, it's worth the listen just for, and this is from takes 11 and 12. It's interesting to hear how Lennon especially and McCartney start doing that same shit they do at the end of Hey Bulldog. What you say? I said no. That type of thing. Only they're doing other things here. Just pushing the envelope. Anything to make it different. Oh yeah, and John wasn't fully committed to the falsetto voice. It sounds rather lame. And so Ringo changed his drum, and John more and fully embraced the idea of singing falsetto. Here it sounds very reluctant. All You Need Is Love. Now, this is the one I was telling you about. This is one of the new tracks. It's a rehearsal, I think it's 5 or 6 minutes long, of the band rehearsing for the All You Need Is Love world broadcast that was going to be televised by satellite, and you got a reporter going on. This goes back to a lot of the stuff that was in Anthology 1. It was interesting. I listened to it 3 times through just to listen. They had different ideas, but the more I listened to it and the more I heard the reporter talking about, this actually is just John singing his lead over already laid down tracks. The 11th track that nobody's heard of is Fool on the Hill. It's the instrumental track. I heard it. I listened to it. Enough said. I don't think I'll ever listen to it again. Why? Okay. It's not like these things were pushed back in the background on the original recording anyway. But if you need something to fill out material, and you only have 13 songs if you include this one, why not, I guess? But not something that would have drawn me to this particular album. I Am the Walrus. This is take 19 with strings, brass, and clarinet overdub. And I said, that George would always tell the Beatles, think symphonically. A lot of people give Paul credit for taking that advice, often saying that John wouldn't listen and that he was too rock and roll for that. But it's on this song that John suggested a lot of the instrumentation. And when you listen to this, and then listen to where it fits into the song. This is one of the gold spots. This is one of the hot spots. I like this. This is very informative to me as a musician, but should be to you as a viewer, whether you're a musician or not. All right, that gets us to the 13th track, Hey Bulldog. It's an instrumental track where Paul held off laying down his bass. And this is right around the time that Paul wouldn't lay down his bass until the whole thing was finished. And then he'd come in after the Beatles had left. Him and Jeff Emmerich would lay down, and he'd go out into the middle of the studio, or sometimes park his ass right up by the console and direct inject his bass and work hours on one song just to get the perfect bass line. This is one of the songs that has one of his greatest bass lines, and it sure is missing on this particular piece. That gets us to Free as a Bird. Okay, it's clearer. There's elements of the acoustic guitar you can hear in the right stereo field that aren't quite as prominent, but once you hear this version, then you hear it there good, but that's because your ears are now informed. Okay, a lot of people, this is their least favorite of these three songs. I think Real Love is my least favorite of these three songs. A lot of people think Free as a Bird is a dirge. Dirge be damned. If it's a dirge, I love it. Okay, I love the song. I love the video that accompanied it, and maybe that's one of the reasons I like the song. But I do like it. There's not a shitload of sparkle added here, folks. So I don't know what's going on with that. Real Love. Now, despite the criticisms of some fans, I kind of prefer this mix. I don't think his voice suffers at all. I think it's more lush. I think it needed to be for this song. It's not one of my favorite Beatle tracks, and it's my least favorite of these three. Okay, and that leads us finally to Now and Then. And of course, this this is a compilation piece. This is the best song out of the three. They really did a good job on this with all the new technology. You wonder why they wouldn't have done so with some of these other cuts I talked about. But again, you think of cash grab, and one of the things is hastily put out together with minimal effort. Okay, nothing special. For the most part, the entire album is a transfer of material from other projects. So in the end, the box set includes 20, I think it's 20 tracks from the other box sets, 2 remix songs from the original anthology, one from the Red and Blue album, and 13 tracks that none of us have ever heard. For a total of 36 tracks in all, 22 of those 36 tracks, whether remixed or not, can be found elsewhere. And although there are some very interesting tracks here, as a whole, Anthology for me is a bit of a nothing burger.